Thanks for having me, Alderman Burns.
All right, I should stop calling you the new Vice President of Civic Engagement. You've been there for a little bit now.
A little bit. January of this year, so I'm going on my 6th month now.
All right, so 6 months at the UFC. I've had like 1 year in on the city council, so we're grizzled veterans now at our jobs. So,
right.
you know, people know what an alderman does. What does a Vice President for Civic Engagement do for the University of Chicago?
Well, my role at the University of Chicago, and actually there's a history of having someone in my position, and my main responsibility is to develop and coordinate the university's work in the community, around the university, in the city, and other types of work outside the walls of the campus. So in that capacity, I lead a lot of efforts to do work within the Chicago Public Schools. I lead efforts around some of the economic development projects that we're doing, like the one on 53rd Street. I also have been doing a lot of work with the faculty on applied research. So the research that they're doing on education or health is something that can have a real life impact on the city of Chicago or cities across the country. So I like to talk about it as I'm in charge of the university's work outside the walls of the university.
Well,
and that's what we do.
That's very cool. I mean, you know, so taking the stuff that people are working on or researching and giving those ideas to policymakers. So I'm going to ask you, as I asked our previous guests, how did you end up becoming a Vice President of Civic Engagement? University of Chicago. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
It's interesting. I never, you know, this isn't something when I was a kid growing up I thought I would do. My job right before this, I was in the White House working for President Obama. I was the special assistant to the president for urban policy, so I oversaw all the urban policy work on the Domestic Policy Council. That was a fantastic role. I got to work with a lot of cities, metropolitan areas, a lot of work around housing and education, economic development, and got to see a lot of the best practices that exist in all those areas across the country. When I was coming out of that job, I heard about this opportunity at the University of Chicago, and when I looked at it and they were talking to me about it, what I realized was that it was an opportunity to really put into practice a lot of the stuff I've been doing at the national level in the White House. And so it was one of those things where, looking back on it now, the fit is very natural, but it's not something that I expected. My background is actually, I'm from Michigan, not too far from Chicago. I'm in southwest Michigan in Berrien Springs near Benton Harbor, St. Joe. A lot of people here know about that area. So I'm a Midwest guy who went out east, was working there for a number of years, and then came back home to the Midwest.
Well, welcome back. I'm a Midwestern guy too. I grew up in Cleveland and went to University of Chicago for undergrad and ended up falling in love with Hyde Park on the south side and meeting some people who encouraged me to stay, and 20 years later I'm still on the south side of Chicago.
I may be doing the same.
There
I
you
may
go.
be sticking too.
Well, there's something about the neighborhood that really is welcoming and opening. I mean, I find Kenwood and Hyde Park and the Mid-South Side to be a place where there are lots of people who come from all over the country or the world, and you know, they welcome you, you know, to the extent to which, you know, you're able to work hard and become part of the community. You know, it doesn't really matter where you come from.
I would completely agree. I mean, in my last job at the White House, I had an opportunity to work in a lot of different communities and see a lot of different communities. And my experience is Hyde Park, Kenwood, that area is very unique in terms of both the engagement of the people in the community. It's one of the more active communities that I've worked in terms of the knowledge of what's going on, the care and the pride they have in the neighborhood, and as you said, you know, the openness and the welcoming of the folks in that community. From the day I arrived at the University of Chicago, you know, people have been bringing me in with open arms, and that's not the case everywhere. I think some of that is a Midwest thing. You know, people in the Midwest are just
a little bit more open than Philadelphia or
than New York or DC, whereas the two other places I lived beforehand. But it's not just you know, they're friendly, but it's also this level of engagement and this responsibility for and this care for what's happening in their community and wanting to be an active participant, which for my job, that is absolutely tremendous, because a lot of what I do is try and find that connection or that intersection between the university and the community.
Well, we had the